Hi there. It says I'm going live. Okie dokie. And I just hit the button and here I am. And welcome to the Cosmic Conspiratorium. And my name is David Null, as is said in the my YouTube video thingy. And if you've looked at any of my other videos, you've noticed that I've done updates on the Earth Wobble. Um, eh, at least for a year or more. And well, something has happened here in the last 2 or 3 weeks that is very noticeable. And I've put out a couple of things in a couple of other threads, like Mr. MB333, who I really applaud for all that he does, and all the other channels. And if you look in my YouTube area where it on my liked videos, you can see where I get my information from, or where I glean my information from. The clock right in the background, is it backwards? I can't tell. Anyway, it's 6 minutes after 9 Eastern Standard Time. I live in Southwest Georgia, about 20 miles north of Thomasville, Georgia. And I don't mind. Folks know where I live, or I don't live, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, giving away my position on the earth. Well, I think that's critical for what I'm about to discuss, because I've been observing the sky and planets and all this other kind of good stuff ever since I was in Cub Scouts. Now, I am 65 years old, born 9/24 in 1952. I am a water dragon and love it. And I think that any other water dragons that are out there, you need to stand up and you need to talk and say what you know. Anyway, with that said, in watching the skies, I've noticed, and in my previous videos, I've been trying to keep up with where the sun rises. So I made a sundial. Now, I'll do a quick kind of, hey, my house ain't real lit up. Anyway, I have south-facing windows in my house because I built a passive solar home. I'm still building a passive solar home. Termites ate it a couple of times. But anyway, so I'm still building. Putting new windows, modifying things, trying to make it even better and more efficient. So I know where south is. South is that way. It has always been that way since I moved here. And I've been in this particular location for 35 years. Okay. Since 1984. How about that as a reference point in time? 1984 is when I officially moved down here and lived. We bought the property earlier on, but couldn't get on the property. Okay, enough said about that. I've been here for a long time. When I go outside in the evening and I look up at the stars, I can observe where the constellations are. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or a physicist or whatever to be able to observe, all right? And as a young Cub Scout, Wobble, then a Boy Scout, I never made it to Eagle Scout or any of that because I was having too much fun in the woods having fun. So anyway, over the last couple of years, since there's been so many earth changes and still going on, I started noticing changes in the pattern in how the sun was coming up and how the sun was going down. Also, I started noticing more where the moon was at particular times of the month. Now, the moon has had a cycle over the years to where, don't quote me on this, all right? But I'm just going to say about 19 years. So with, I didn't bring my little round bally thing. Oh, okay, we're in pretend time, okay? Now, I'm sorry, but I don't believe the earth is flat all the way around, okay? Sorry, you're just going to have to trust me on this one. However, my observations are valid whether or not you believe in a round earth or a flat earth. It doesn't matter, because the position of the stars relative to your position in the universe is really what is at stake here. Now, last Monday, I like to freaked out. In fact, I tried to go live and something happened and I didn't. And I think I just literally freaked myself out, because where I saw Orion at this time of night, 9 o'clock, I think it was about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening, Eastern Standard Time, Southwest Georgia. I'm about 60 miles north of the Florida line, okay? And maybe 50. It's not really that far from the line as the crow flies. So, excuse me. I walk out my back door, which faces south, look up to the sky, and I know that Orion has been rising in the east, and that I know where it should be, okay? Well, at 8:30, 9 o'clock, it was sort of in the right place, a little further south than what I had anticipated. In other words, I didn't have to look up to see it. I could see it just by looking, okay, into the sky. Take 3 steps off my back from my back door, and there it is, okay? Only so I can clear the house and so forth. Anyway, so a couple hours later, I go outside. And I'm checking on, because something is off. I mean, the way Orion is sitting in the sky, it's tilted or something. Something's weird, right? And also my location to where the North Star is, Polaris, okay? And it's the tip of the handle of the Little Dipper. And the Little Dipper is here, and the Big Dipper, it's got 4 big brighter stars, and these 2 top ones point to the North Star. All right. Well, from my location down here near the Florida border, the North Star should not be very far off the horizon, okay? Because we're so far south and tilt of the Earth, okay, flat Earth, whatever. Point being is that Polaris, the North Star, I'm not discussing magnetic north yet, okay? I'm talking celestial north from the Earth's position. I look up there and I see, and I go, Now, in the old days, we still use this, our fingers and thumb, in the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, as a measuring device. So I could extend my arm and say, okay, I got 1, 2, 3 of these from ground level, or from my horizon, up to where Polaris is, from my position in South Georgia. Now, it's always been there, okay? Use your hand and thumb. I've lived here 35 years. I've lived in South Georgia much longer than that, 45 years, okay? So I've been here for a long time, and I grew up in Tampa. So when I moved north, I was able to see more of the north sky, which is one reason why I stayed up here. And I could see the constellations better than I could in southern Florida, mid-Florida, Tampa, etc. Now, so I know my position on the Earth in relationship to where the North Star is. Now, the North Star should, from my position, only be about 3 of these from the horizon. So if I'm got my arm extended out, I go 1, 2, 3. There's where the North Star should be. Which I have a little device that I made, and I want to teach y'all a little something that's very simple to use, and how to determine an angle from where you're standing, sitting, or whatever, especially in relationship to an object in the sky. How, what angle is this from the horizon? Now, this is, I was a draftsman in high school, an engineer, studied engineering. I never got a 4-year degree because I was a machinist and then became a CAD drafter designer. And I've worked on a bunch of stuff for some large automotive companies as a contract engineer and 3D AutoCAD designer. I was good. Now, so this is a protractor. I learned how to draw back at Tampa Catholic High School. I graduated in 1970. Sister Helene was my drafting instructor, and she taught me bunches. Now, using this protractor, I'm, straight overhead is 90 degrees, okay? And this would be 0 degrees if I'm looking out at the horizon. So now, all different protractors have little different things, but there'll be a cross right here. This particular one has a hole. So when you're drawing, you can put your pencil in there and make a mark, and then you can check on the outside perimeter of this thing for the degree of angle that you want to mark a point, draw a line, whatever, okay? Now, most folks don't use these things anymore because you got computers, and these things make their own lines and everything. This is old tech. This is stuff in case my computer goes down. I don't have to figure out blah, blah, blah. I got me a string and a piece of plastic with my degrees on it, okay? It's $1. The string's cheap. Now, so what I do is I got to try to figure out how to, that light's really bright. All right. So if I'm outside and I want to figure out what the degree is, I say, okay, Orion's up there, and I walk outside. Now, 90 degrees is straight up over my head. All I have to do is take this piece of string by my eyeball and look at where Orion is. So if Orion's down in the sky like this, I take the string off and I look and I go, whoa, wow, it's only about 20 degrees off the horizon. Okay. Versus 90 degrees, which would be straight overhead. Now, 45, you can pretty much stand up and just go, and that's about 45. Okay. So 45, 50, 55, 60, going up to the 90 degree mark. So the higher the string goes, the greater the degree of angle, because I'm using 90 as overhead. Now, I could use 0 overhead and 90 as this way. Okay. This is the way I was taught to use it. Okay. So when I look out now, tonight, this is Monday night, February 19th, 2018. Now, so when I looked up at the sky tonight, just before I started this, and I used my little gizmo, Orion's up at about 80 degrees. I mean, I got to crane my neck, and I got a bad neck because I've had it operated on several times. It's hard for me to look up that high. So I had to lean back to see Orion, which means, from my position, the constellation of Pleiades is almost directly over my house. Now, if you take a little time to study how the Earth rotates in our solar system with the stars as the background, okay? Now, a lot of us think, okay, the Earth is stationary and the stars move in the sky. Okay, either way you want to look at it. But at different times of the year, the Earth has a different background of stars because of how we move around the sun and where we are during the summertime. So summertime constellations are different than the wintertime constellations. Right now, Orion always comes up in the east from my location. Orion comes up straight up over my driveway, up overhead, and then because the celestial position of the stars versus our position on the Earth, the stars just don't go around straight around. It's an oblong kind of thing. So it comes up in the east, but it doesn't truly set in the west. It sort of sets, supposedly, in the northwest because of where the North Pole is, the North Pole star, not the North Pole on the Earth. Has nothing to do with it yet. So looking at the North Pole star, Polaris, Orion moves across the sky. Pleiades, 7 sisters, looks like a little tiny teacup, really small versus the Little Dipper, which is much larger. It's over my house, like 90 degrees over the house. Last night, it was 70 degrees over my head. Now, that was Sunday. Now, I was going to go live last night. I was like, it was cloudy and I couldn't really see. And it was like, and I wasn't feeling well. I think it's because of all this energy we're getting whacked by from the cosmos. Now, my observations as I walked out tonight, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm going to carry I've got a small Chromebook, and I'm just using the laptop's camera. So I'm very limited. As much as I have tried to take pictures of where Orion is to my position, it doesn't work. So all I can do is verbally tell you when I stand at my back door and I look up, Orion tonight at 9:15 is at approximately 75 degrees up from my being able to view it. My observation last week was that it set in the southwest 20 degrees off the horizon. In the southwest. I mean, way down towards, it's set over from where I sit late at night. You can see the glow of the lights from Tallahassee, Florida. It's set over Tallahassee. That's southwest of me. Orion is never, ever, never, ever supposed to set there. Never, never. Because the next night, well, it rained and it was cloudy for a couple days. But when the clouds cleared, Orion was now back where it was supposed to be. That was a few nights ago. Now, I go out periodically to check. Okay, where have you moved? And so, but last week freaked me out so bad, I was scared to even go out and look. Because now, what does that mean? Well, it means that the Earth is wobbling. Now, I've known this for a while because of my observations of the sun and the sundial that I made because I have south-facing windows, okay? It's easy. The sun comes up this time of year at 10 o'clock. There's a line on the windowsill that I made, and sometimes it's 9 o'clock by the clock, but it's 11 o'clock by the shadow of the sun. That's a 2-hour difference. The next day, it will be an hour late coming up. That's a 3-hour difference. Now, I have observed this thing. In fact, I will go off camera for a half a second and pick up my funky little chart. Now, this is my sundial. All right. Now, you say, what the hell? Well, from this position, this is my corner. I don't know which is better to try to do this. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. The sun comes up. The sun will come up tomorrow. All right, I'll get tagged for singing. All right, so this is my south facing. All right, so the sun's coming up and it casts a shadow. So all these little lines here, the long line over here is my early line. So this right here, was this line here, for example, because I wrote on it. Doesn't really make any sense to you, but I'm just going to point it out. This on 3:15 and 17, that was 10 o'clock. Now, if I go to the next red line up on 3:05 of 17, that line was 9 o'clock. Now, we didn't have a time change then. All right. So you go up to the next line. And for each of these lines, so 10 o'clock on the clock, and I check it with my computer. So like right now it says 9:20. It's 4:20 somewhere. Okay, where are you? Where is the shadow line from the sun on my little gizmo chart here? So I've got lots of little notes, and I've been trying to figure out how I could put it in a PDF format, but it just wouldn't make sense. I mean, I would know what it means now, but I can show you on certain dates at 9 o'clock that 9 o'clock appeared. I mean, this is approximately 15 degrees between some of these major lines. Okay. And that's about what the sun would come up. So from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, about 15 degrees, 10, 11, 15 degrees, all the way across, okay? So that's just normal progression. And sundials have been around forever, you know, since the sun came up. So, but when in a 2-day period, it will be 10 o'clock at the furthest line, which should be like 8:30 or 9. It's 10 o'clock. Oop, wrong line. So my next line, a week earlier, it was 9 o'clock there. So that should have been like 8:30. It wasn't. 10 days later, it was actually 10 o'clock there instead of 9 o'clock. A couple of days later, coming up this line, which should have been 9:30, that's 11. Then it goes back. So for each one of these lines, it is the time of day as per a clock has shifted as much as 10 to 15 degrees in one day. Meaning the sun has come up late or early, which means either the earth has sped up or slowed down. I don't think it's the sun that's moving, it's us. We're wobbling badly. Because if we can, and we have, last week, a week ago today, right between now and 4 o'clock in the morning, is when the earth did some kind of weird, oh my God, how did Orion set over Tallahassee from my position? It's not supposed to happen. So I couldn't do any kind of live stream or anything to discuss this because I know I'm right. I know I'm crazy, but how do you explain this? Why, you know, bringing up, oh my God, Orion set over there and blah, blah. Yeah, but how? Now, in thinking about the earth and it's the earth. The sky ain't moving. We are. Okay. So for Orion to set as far south as it did, the earth had to rotate up. So where my normal position was I'm just going to use 70. It's really high in the sky tonight, which means theoretically the earth has tilted further south so that Orion is more overhead tonight, where a week ago it had rolled the opposite direction and had set to the south-southwest. Way out of whack, which would have meant that Polaris, the North Star, would not have been where it is or was. It was located in another portion of my sky entirely. Polaris is not supposed to move. Polaris is just supposed to be there in all the cosmos. We are the ones that are rotating, but it appears that they're all of the constellations are rotating around the central point of the Polaris star. Okay. You can use these different programs on the internet and blah, blah, blah. And some of them are wrong. They're wrong because I think they were written in a time warp. And I know, time warp. I listened to a discussion the other day, and I had to agree. It's Off-Planet TV. Wait a minute, Off-Planet Radio. Randy Morgan. Oh, man, I can't think of the girl's name right now. Oh, forgive me if you watch this. Oh, you're some of my favorite people to watch. Cliff High, and I can't think of her name. Anyway, I digress. Thank you, Richie from Boston, by the way. Love and prayers to you, my brother. Mr. MBB333, thank you, my brother, if you should ever watch this. There are a lot of people I would like to give kudos to as far as putting things out there and stimulating people's minds. Now, I don't have fancy charts. I've had computers blow up. I mean, I know how to do computer work. I work 3D modeling for Ford, Chrysler, Nissan, Honda. The powers that be don't want me speaking. They don't want me to have all kinds of fancy graphs. So I'm just here to tell you this, all right? Do it yourself. I say, take my word for it. Something weird is going on. Now, I was on Mr. BB's 333 channel last night because of one of his, I made a comment. And I said, you know, Orion's moved. And I thought I was going to get crap for it, when actually I got several responses that were like, dude, man, I've been trying to take pictures of it. And it was, Orion last week was all over the place. That's right. We're the ones that are all over the place. The Earth is just doing this. We are a large tire out of balance. Now, the Orion thing, the sun coming up in, the sun's still being weird as where it comes up. However, it has to do with where we end up in our daily wobble. And I'm talking daily wobble. Now, we've wobbled up to where last week Orion was way south. Now, from my position, it's almost overhead, which means the Earth has rolled down for Orion to be over my head. Otherwise, Orion should be, if the Earth had rolled back this way, Orion then would go this way in my field of view. So in 7 days, we went from 30 degrees to 75 degrees. That's what? 30, 40, 50, 60, 75. 45-degree difference in wobble in 7 days. Now, I don't have a way to take a picture of the sky from here. All I can do is go out and go, there's Orion, okay? And I urge everybody else, go outside, pick the same spot, because it doesn't work if you go over here or over there. No, you have to go pick the same spot. Doesn't matter, just as long as it's clear in the sky, go find you a spot. But if you go this way a little bit or this way a little bit, because of your background and where it is in relationship to the trees, it can fool you. Because I freaked myself out one time going, oh, wow, I was standing in the wrong place. Now, I have a spot marked up on the hill that I go to for all of my references. I put 3 stakes in the ground because that's what we were taught as Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, all right? Put 3 stakes in the ground. You line them up to, I lined them up to east, okay? So I got my compass out and I did it from the one side and then I did it from the other side to make sure that my poles in the ground were lined up east and west. So I can put my camera in the middle and then sight this way, east, or turn 180 degrees around, sight the other pole, and that is my due west. From a magnetic point of view, not from a celestial point of view. Now, up until recently, though, north was pretty much magnetic north, except that the North Star is off the horizon. Not a big deal. However, now that I've seen other people start to chatter up that, what the hell is going on with the sky? Ladies and gentlemen, hobos and tramps, cross-eyed mosquitoes, and bow-legged ants, I have information for you that's very simple. The Earth is out of balance. And I don't mean, oh, there's too much. No, I mean, it's like a tire out of balance. We've had all kinds of earthquakes going off, which is relieving pressure. They're claiming that the Antarctic or Antarctica, I don't know when it went to Antarctica. It was always the Antarctic versus the Arctic. That's one of them Mandela things. When did they put the A on the end? I don't know. Anyway, so here in my little conspiratorium, and shouts out and I can't do hand farts like Lionel does. Lionel Nation. I'm an old Tampa boy myself. I say we both moved north. I miss Cuban bread though, like he and his wife do. I digress. Now, if you're watching this and wondering a chat thing, it is not showing me any kind of chat. So I'm assuming I'm live. The camera's on and it says I'm live. So I'll check it out in a little bit. Now, on with this little tidbit. The moon rising and setting and its odd positions seems to correlate. The moon is moving, but not near as much as the Earth is wobbling. Now, Antarctica. They're claiming that there are undersea volcanoes, and it showed up on the, different satellite images for, the heat under the ice and so forth. And I do believe it. I do believe it. There are volcanoes all over the place. I didn't know it except for when Dutch Senses brought it up. Thank you, Dutch, by the way. Shout out to you and your good work. Except that everybody's got it wrong. There are no subduction zones. Nothing's going under another one. We're just banging together. The Earth is expanding, okay? And Cliff Hyde made a very, very good statement the other day on the off-planet media with Randy Moggins and, God, why can't I think of her name? Anyway, I love you, hon. I do. Moya, anyway. Cliff stated, and it made sense, that because of all the extra cosmic energy we're getting, and this is a cyclical type of thing. It happens, every 1,000,000 years, every 250,000, whatever it is. Modern minimum, we're going into a mini ice age, whatever the deal. The Earth, the solar system, has cycles that it goes through. Now, one in particular that the alignment happened on my birthday last year. Coinky dink, is that all the planets are not right at this minute, but most of the planets were all on one side of the sun. Now, if science is proving that all of our planets are connected electrically, mechanically. Well, yes, mechanically, because quantum mechanics states that, one quantum can touch a billion miles away. They're linked in the quantum. So, but the fact that all of the planets were on one side of the sun, more or less, which could create a slight drag in the sun in itself, because we're all kind of hanging out in behind it over here, right? Traveling through the universe, that all these lines of magnetism and electroism and quantumism are entangled. Now, if you've got Jupiter over here, sun's in the middle and the Earth is over here, well, that's opposing. But when you got them on the same side, then everything can kind of be, I'm going to use the word short circuit. Because what we might get straight from the sun is we're actually we're getting short-circuited with all the other planets. Or you could look at it conversely, that where it's not being short-circuited, we're actually being circuited. Maybe we're connecting, but what it's doing, it is creating plasma. The inside of the Earth is heating up. Thus, all the volcanoes and all the stuff going off, okay? It's really simple, all the work that they've been doing with plasma research and stuff, So as plasma is being generated in the center of the Earth, I'm sorry, but I gotta just hang out. This is a conspiratorium now. Thank you very much. So, and I have done my science. I have. But it's not the mainstream science. about a year ago, I found out after all my study with science and astronomy and going to school to be an astronomer, and have a job with to go where he went to work every night and look through a telescope. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up. But things changed. Now, I can still be an astronomer without having to go to college and all the stuff, and because all of the information has been there for all along. And the biggest thing that science is observation. What is astronomy? Observation. Why am I sitting here talking to you about the Earth wobble? It's because I have observed it from my position on the Earth here in Southwest Georgia. Okay. And that these are my readings. These are my findings. These are the things I observe. My observation, therefore, is science, because I do things like make silly little charts. Where is the sun today? Where is the shadow? Now, from my observations, now I can't do it with Orion. All I can do is go, there it is, but if I have to, I'm going to do it live so I can have my own record. Okay. Where's my, I got, one of these yearly planner thingies, right? And I started marking it, at, okay. On the 16th, for example, I wrote it down in my little thing. I want to write tonight's down. On the 16th, Orion at 75 degrees at 9 p.m. All right. But moved southwest 20 degrees by 1 a.m. So what do I mean by that? All right. So Orion was 75 degrees. All right. And it should have continued its arc over this big oak tree behind the house here. So it should have traversed this away. Okay. It didn't. Instead of going in its normal routine, following Polaris and going around this way, instead, we, the Earth, tumbled big time. Okay. Because 20 degrees, by using my little protractor, works also not only up and down, but side to side, horizontally. So if I'm looking at something and this is my 90 degrees south, okay? I point my little thing south and I got my little string pointed out and I move it over here and I go, oh, well, that's where it is. That's how I know it was 20 degrees. It was actually 30, but I didn't want to stretch it because it sounded really freaking crazy. Now, this is on the 16th, okay? Friday, all right? Now, where it is now, well, I haven't gone on to check, but I got to give it a couple hours. Now, I will note it, as I'm noting it now, that Orion was more like 80 degrees, dang near overhead, okay? And it should continue to move in a sort of northwesterly fashion, not southwesterly, because of where Polaris is in the north from my position here, okay? It's rotating on its own, but it should not go set anything, anything south of west is whack. Plain simple, anything south of west is whack. West is whack because it should set, I'm speaking of Orion, because of the odd nature in how the constellations move in relationship to the Earth. Actually, we're moving in relationship to them. That's my point. We can track this, every single dang one of us. You can track this stuff with a protractor and a string, okay? You might have one laying around the house. You can also just make a little piece of cardboard and mark some notches on it because it's a subjective. It's not how much it is exactly, but I was trying to figure out a simple way that I could record from my position, because I don't have a sextant, one of those things that they use on the ships in the old days to mark their position. Excuse me. If I was out on a sailboat and headed back into port, and I saw Orion move where it did move, but I knew that the coast was that way. You know, I knew the coast is this way because of just how I've been sailing, right? And that the Southern Cross is behind me, then I must be going north. But to watch as you're sailing on an open ocean must have been absolutely crazy last week. Now, maybe that's for the reason for all these silly clouds they've been putting up around us. Now, from my location down here in Southwest Georgia, I gotta say that the stratospheric aerosol injection, which is SAI, stratospheric aerosol injection. You can't use the word trails, okay? I'm not going to say the word because it gets picked up through the chat in the algorithms, all right? The artificial intelligence that is doing its thing is really good, and it's learned how to do voices really good. In fact, how do you think that I was watching Lionel the other day or somebody anyway, and it was anyway, look in my like section. I'm rolling a cigarette. I want this probably should be a part 2, but I'm going to do this for an hour, and so I'm going to try to wrap this up in a way. I'm going to go out and check the stars again and see where we are, and then maybe come back on in an hour and do another little bit of an update, because I do, honest to God, think it's important, because there are a lot of us out there going, man, ain't nobody saying jack about this. Nobody's saying a word. Not one person is speaking up about this. Oh, well, that's impossible. You're damn right it's impossible. Oh, but how in the heck, excuse my French, but how in the heck does Orion go from overhead to southwest in 4 hours? It ain't normal. So I do believe, as Cliff High stated. Now, I've known for a long time. I mean, go back in some of this history. I mean, go on, Ancient Aliens or something like that, or Ancient History. And they talk about Pangea. Well, Pangea was the Earth as one big island, okay? And there is someone on a UAM, one of my, I'm subscribed to their channel, so go through my liked videos. But one of them, they discuss about what the Earth looked like, and they did little GIF animations of how, it went from an island to a little bigger, and then a little bigger, and a little bigger, a little bigger to our present position, all right, over these millions of years. Now, one of the things that Cliff High brought up, and I agree, and it's standard knowledge by now, that the Mayan calendar was based on a 360-day year. You go, well, that's impossible. No, it's not. No, it's not. How come we have 365 and a quarter days? And every 4 days we have to make up one. That's why we have leap years. They didn't have leap years back then. It was 360 days. It's because the Earth was a little closer to the sun. Didn't mean it was hotter. Because that has nothing to do with it. It does have to do with the amount of radiation that could possibly come in, but negligible from the knowledge that we have now with the Thunderbolts Project and the Electric Universe, and very interesting. Okay, quantum physics, mechanics, etc. Now, so the Mayans weren't wrong. The Earth has moved out from its orbit of 360 days to 365 and a quarter. All right. How hard is that to really, think about? Not really. You have to think that, oh, well, the Earth is not static. In other words, the sun doesn't sit still and we go around it. It ain't like that. Everything is moving through the universe like you cannot believe. Quick. Now, which is amazing and fantastic and wonderful. I would encourage you to go to the LASCO, see to some of the solar satellites that have their eye on the sun. And the ones that are in blue of LASCO will show you things zipping by in front of the camera. Oh man, is there a bunch of stuff out in our solar system. In just a one little clip of an hour, you'll see 100 different things flying through our solar system. Our solar system, between us and the sun, and not just on the other side, there is all kinds of stuff going on. Now, way back when, there was a picture, it's still out there, of this big black thing that with a tail looked like a tadpole in a way, with its tail touching the sun, and it looked like it was sucking energy off of the sun. Probably was. Was it stealing the energy? No. There's plenty out there, okay? But then this object goes away. Now, that object happened to be about 2 or 3 times bigger than the planet Jupiter, which is 10 times bigger than the planet Earth. And so here's little bitty Earth, and here's this big black thing next to the sun. Now, it wiggled this little tail, and poof, it went off. That's happening all the time. Not just on our sun, but on other suns in other solar systems all over the universe, not just in this galaxy. If you have not figured out that we're not alone in this universe, you need to just take a chill pill and go, hey, sorry, but we do. We are not alone, never have been, and there's a lot of things that are going to be coming to light. Now, if you go back in my videos, I'm going to do an updated one because I've been asked to do it by my higher self, I guess. Yes, this is the Galactic Conspiratorium. So there are going to be some conspiracy things that people are like, oh man, don't tell me you've been talking to blue sphere beings. Actually, I have. But they ain't the ones that that Corey guy's talking about. Not the same ones. These are elementals. Like fairies and the good folk. Elementals. And you say, well, sure, Mr. Dave, that's good. You blurt this out. No, go into my other videos. And I have one about the orbs that I saw in Ohio about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago now. I really want to go back. But there are places that are around here, like my backyard. I live on the Little Ocklawaha River. And there's a place down there that is very spiritual, and not necessarily in a good way, but on either side of the Little Ocklawaha River, there's New Bethel Baptist Church with a cemetery. On this side of the river, down the road a piece, because I live on Zion Grove Church Road, it's the Zion Grove Church has a cemetery. Now, it just so happens that about a halfway point, more or less, between these two, there's it's almost like the spirits are wandering through the woods around here. I don't know how else to put it, okay? Other people have seen them. I've had little girls that some friends of mine way back when I first moved down here, she had an invisible friend. However, I had two other people tell me about the same invisible friend and exactly the same description, but they didn't know that my friend's daughter had an invisible playmate. Invisible to me, invisible to her, but not to the child. But it was confirmed by two other people who never met this child, who never knew about the incident. So, whether it's spiritual or funky world or something, years ago, while doing some shamanistic meditation, all right, I had a fire. It was a small Native American type ceremony. Okay. Nothing more than I'm going to sit down here and show me what you got. All right. I was just kind of being open, not asking or looking for anything in particular, except that I wanted to know where I was here on this property. Now, this has been 30 years now, 25, maybe at least. It has happened since, but not as frequently. But that a portal, don't know how else to explain it. And by the way, I didn't used to have a television. And when I did get one, it was black and white, about this big, 19-inch, 17-inch. It was small. That was my television with rabbit ears for a long time. But, so I missed a lot of television. However, I love sci-fi, Star Wars, that kind of thing, all right? Now, I saw a Stargate open up, portal, before I knew that there was a Stargate, the movie or the series, okay? This happened like 15 years before any of this kind of stuff came out. So other people who aren't here any longer, meaning they have passed on to the next life, witnessed this with me. Now, I can call it back from the grave, but all I can say is the potential is there, all right? So I have been observing the natural surroundings of my being here on this planet. The elementals, this isn't really the right term, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to say that they're like earth spirits, okay? And I mean, just all different varieties, things that I had really never even thought of. But then when I sort of saw them, I'm like, whoa, okay. Now, I have pictures that I learned how to take pictures of these orbs. And you go, oh, that's a lens flare. How can you have a lens flare when you're taking a picture of pitch black with a flash that is slightly retarded? In other words, it goes click and then flash. Or maybe it's the other way around. It goes flash, then click. And you can get it either way. My point is, okay, you might have one or two, but it would have to reflect off of something to get a lens glare. If you're pointing to nothing, then how can you say that it's a lens flare? Also, when you say, well, there's one or two, no, but when there's 100 of them, back to back to back to back, and in depth, go check out my video about the old orbs in Ohio, or the, what's the term? It's an old ancient site, petroglyph. Aha, the petroglyphs in Ohio. Now, the Native Americans up there have been swearing for a long time that is a very, very, very special place. Well, I got contacted there. July will be 2 years. Now, what does that mean? It means I did believe people could be contacted by spirit beings or whatever, but I didn't think it was going to happen to me. Well, it did, and it has, and it's happened before. Now, I've always just had my conversations with my guardian angel because I was raised a Catholic. But then, and as I pushed off the Catholic, it became my spirit guide. Now, I've also realized over the years that I've had a one of the spirit guides, I hate to say it, but he just flat out gave up on me. And I went to the river for almost 4 days and had to literally die, walk out of myself, walk with those spirits, and then come back. 4 days on the big old Clockney River with no water, no food, and it was 102 in the shade during the daytime. It was like 85 degrees at night. No water, no food, no medicine, no nothing. I should not have come off that river. I'm here now because I have to tell these things. I have to make these observations. And I have to be able to say to you, hey, look, yes, it's crazy, but if you do the observation, part of my job being here is that, like, you know what? There are other people that are seeing some really weird stuff and are afraid to open their mouth. I just watched a video on Secure Team 10 about some folks down in Australia and New Zealand area, things that happened down there. Now, and I didn't realize, and I wasn't trying to go with the implant thing, but I got stories that I'm scratching my head now going, I got a little thing right there. It's a little white dot, and there's something in there. And it won't show up on camera. I got to get it just right and see it. Like right now, it wants to disappear. But I know it's not going to show up right, but it's right there. This little lump. I have no idea where it comes from. And there are times when it'll itch. I was scratching it earlier today going, damn, what my arm itch? It must have got bit. Then I looked, no, there's something in there. There's a lump. And at times it shows itself white. And right now it's trying to hide, and it's actually turned a little red because I've been scratching at it. Now, I'm not trying to say that I've been abducted and blah, 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 but there's been some other weird mess happening to me over the years. And I know I dug something out of my leg back before anybody knew that there were implants. I pulled it out of my leg. I got drunk on Jack Daniels and smoked about 3 big old hooters of some big old, it was some Jamaican weed that I got back in the late 70s, early 80s. And this thing was bothering me. It looked like, at times, it looked like somebody had taken a pencil lead. Just, and that it was, had broke off in my leg. And I'm like, there's no way it should have been there. I dug it out. Well, it took me good part several hours when I found, I was using razor blades and tweezers. I went after that thing because I was like, if it's a piece of pencil lead, I don't need lead in my system because it will give me lead poisoning. That was my thinking. It wasn't lead. It was all squishy and weird and was like a grain of rice. And later on, as I watched Dr. Roger Lear, I think before he passed away, where they were taking, and also L.A. Marzulli, where they were taking this implant out of this person and it kept wiggling around and they couldn't find it. They had taken pictures of it and sonograms of it and everything, but when it came time to getting it out, they couldn't find it. Check out L.A. Marzulli. Mine was the same thing. Now, I did get it out. All right. And I had it for a long time. It was like up on the dresser. And then the house burned down out of nowhere. Destroying my evidence, and everything else I owned. Now, which is also odd in that same vein, because the reason no one else could or would stay in the house, when I finally, I rented it, spent some time in Florida in jail, came back up to Georgia, and they let me rent the house again. But while I was gone, they had went through 4 tenants. And they didn't tell me until after the house burned down that the reason that they kept going through tenants was because the people kept seeing a ghost. I knew the ghost was there. It was the ghost of the old man. He would sit in the rocking chair on the front porch with me, and I'd drink a beer and smoke a joint and have a pipe, and I could see that rocking chair move right along with me. And everybody was like, that's just the wind. Okay, fine. I knew he was in that chair. That man woke me up when the house burned down and got us out alive. Not much else, but just us. But he got us out alive. And I picked him out in a lineup in a photo album. I'd never met the man, but him and his brother built that house that burnt down, old Mr. Croft. Now, so I have experiences. I know things have happened. I have seen, touched, smelled, and been saved by spirits who have materialized and touched me in order to help save or otherwise something. So I know that there are other dimensions and other things going on. Now, with that said, you got to be able to prove it to yourself that I'm sitting here in the conspiratorium of the cosmos and thinking to myself, you know, you're not going to believe it unless you go out and you look at where Orion is, because it's visible right now in the northern hemisphere. I don't know how far north you could see Orion right now, actually, because of the curvature, if you believe in a globe Earth. But even still, I mean, you know, your position, how far south would it be? So, but which is interesting. In one of the planetarium softwares, you mark your position and then give it your time of day or the date or whatever, and then it will show you what the sky looks like. Well, in order to get Orion to set where it did, I had to be north of Atlanta. Now, I'm almost on the Florida border. Atlanta's 200 miles, almost exactly due north of me. So you're trying to tell me that in the course of 4 hours, the Earth rolled 200 miles north so that Orion could set in the southwest. Is that what you're telling me? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Now, with the Antarctic thing and everything. Now, Mr. MBB333, I give you credit for this, and somewhere he's got a video, and he talks about how, and I didn't know this. I did, but I didn't. It was kind of weird. Anyway, I didn't realize that the Pacific Ocean was higher than the Atlantic. And somewhere in my studies of the Panama Canal, there was something about that, how they had to figure out how to elevate water from one side to the other. But because the Pacific was higher, there was always more water on one side than the other. So it was easy for them to flood one side and bring the Atlantic side up so that they could go across. It never really made sense to me. I didn't realize that the Pacific Ocean was physically higher than the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. So where they meet at the tip of South America and the Antarctic, there's the Narrows in there. Well, man, all the sailors all over the years, like why they couldn't sail around the tip of, one of them is the tip of Africa, which has got some really nasty weather between the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean over there, the Pacific, versus the Atlantic versus the Pacific south of South America. Now, it goes through a Narrows there, and all of the old sailors, you know, like, man, oh man, that is the most treacherous water on the planet, because one ocean's higher than the other, and the two of them are trying to mix. Oh my God, I hadn't thought about that. Well, guess what? Since all this melting with the Antarctic is going on, it's opened up the gap. So that now where the Pacific was markedly higher, it kind of leveled off a little bit. Because now the flow is not as restricted as it used to be. Now you say, well, Mr. Dave, okay, that's all fine and dandy. What's that got to do with where the stars are? It's because that's what's helping to put the Earth out of balance. If you take water and put it in a thing and blah, blah, and swing it around, that water is going to stay put. If you put it in a little basket or put that much water in it and you just twirl it around your head real easy, that water is going to sink to the bottom. Now, okay, that's a centrifugal force kind of thing. Well, most of us will understand that the earth we feel is spinning, except those flat earthers. I don't know what they do, but I'm not speaking bad. I'm just saying, as a person who believes that all the planets are round-ish versus flat-ish, the centrifugal force issue on Earth works. So Earth is whipping itself around in a circle, and the water is sloshing right around with it. Now, as kids, we had about a 15-foot, 3-foot deep swimming pool down in Florida. And us kids would get in there when all the adults would get out. And we would all walk in the same direction around this swimming pool. And the force of 3 kids walking and pushing, not splashing, but just pushing, holding our arms out, we would form a whirlpool in the swimming pool. And you could literally tell that it was higher on the outside than the inside. So the middle, and I mean, you know, we would try so hard to get, and once you got it going, what we would do is we would just pick up our feet and we would float around and see how many times the whirlpool effect how many times around the swimming pool we could get. This is little kids back in the 60s, okay? But this was our experimentation with whirlpools and water and that kind of thing, okay? Now, what we realized is once we got that water started, if you were tried to get out of where the ladder was to get out, it was one of them, you know, A-frame type deals, and you climb it. That the smaller kids, you know, my sister, she was, you know, so thin back then, a little frail thing. She was hanging on for dear life. She couldn't crawl up the ladder when we got it going so fast. Okay, because we'd crawl up on the ladder and we'd dive back in. It was a lot of fun. And but what I noticed more than everybody else is like, oh, that was cool. But me as with my science brain, I was thinking to myself, you ain't stopping that water. You pick up your feet and you just go right along with it, you know. And so we would get it going so fast that it would take several minutes for the entire pool to stop rotating. Little did we know what we were playing with back then, but it was fun. We could ride the current inside the swimming pool, and it was something that us kids created. Cool. So the same thing applies because of my experience in a, 15-foot diameter swimming pool in the 60s. If you got the Pacific Ocean that's going around in a particular thing, and you open up a valve over here so where some of it's getting siphoned off into the Atlantic, we'll say. Now, if any of you have been watching these satellite images of how the currents in the oceans and stuff have been going, they've been going nuts. Oh, they've been going wacko. For the last couple of years, they've been going wacko. Yeah. Well, the more it is wobbling, and if we've got a magma chamber blowing off in the South Pacific, and there's a crap load of weight coming up out of the earth in the form of a volcano, it's pressure relieved. It's also going to want to wobble that tire a little bit. It's like a couple of little kids trying to jump into the stream, okay? It's going to have an effect. Now, it might be as simple. Now, think car tire. Easiest thing. If your tire gets a little off, or if it loses one of its wheel weights, or it gets a little wobble or something happens to it, it'll wear that tire out in no time. I put a brand new set of tires on my car here in Thomasville and went down to Tampa a few years back. And I didn't know that I had a balance issue on my rear end. I lost 2 tires in 265 miles. 2 brand new tires in 265 miles because I didn't know. I didn't know that there was an issue with the balance. And then also the toe in, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that was like $200 worth of mistake there, right? That I had to right then because I couldn't get home. And then when I did get home, I didn't know what the problem was while I was there. So I ruined another tire and a half getting home, but I did drive slower, which helped. Out of balance. So the earth is out of balance with the water flowing. The Gulf of Mexico don't work like it used to. The Gulf Stream, the way it used to go up. Why is the UK and everybody getting hammered? Because their Gulf Stream has been affected. When they put all that coagulant stuff in the Gulf of Mexico, when the Deepwater Horizon burst its pipe, where do you think that stuff went? It got sucked out of the Gulf of Mexico and into the stream. I got folks in the Navy said they've been down in the Straits of Florida and they could see the stuff go through. Okay. And because it doesn't float, it creates its own thermocline. Now, the scientists warned us about this several years ago. Ain't nobody paying attention to it. But the Gulf Stream dang near quit of what it used to be. Okay. And the Gulf Stream took warm air up into, it actually ended up in the UK and Ireland and over there. They're having storms now that hadn't happened in forever. These people are getting hammered. Why? We're out of balance. And the Gulf Stream has significantly slowed. Okay. Now, that's not counting all the other stuff that's going on with the stratospheric aerosol injection. That doesn't count the earth is expanding. Okay. I'm sorry, but it is. And Cliff High was right, is right. As the earth is being heated up cosmically from the center of the galaxy, you've been hearing this for years that we're getting these energy pulses. Well, in 2003, a cosmic wave came by and took away our ozone layer and about 10% of our atmosphere right off the top, swiped it. Why do you think the sun changed colors? Did the sun itself change? Yes. But also how we viewed it through our solar screen of atmosphere, it went from a yellow to a blue almost overnight. Why? Because that solar storm in 2003 took off our ozone layer. Why are they stratospherically injecting aerosols? Because we don't have or very, 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 very little ozone layer. Now, when was the last time you heard ozone layer come up in a conversation? They used fluorocarbons, they're going to take away our ozone. Blah, 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 blah. When was the last time you heard ozone layer? I'm waiting. Been a while. Point being, it's gone. And they don't want to say anything. Why are all these pilots getting more radiation? Why is it hotter up than it is down here? It's supposed to be colder when you go up, right? Not warmer. We lost our ozone layer. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So things are being affected down here on Earth. Now, I like I said, I think Cliff High is correct because of my science studies and other people's study sciences, blah, blah, blah. Is somebody on? Hang on. I just hit the button. It said go live, and I went, okay. And hey, Lavette. Oh, are you still there? It says one. Holy mackerel. Hey, girl, I can't type and do this at the same time. Lavette, honey, you've given me some very good insight with some of your, I want to say lectures. And I even sent you a little note in one of your videos at one time. I said, you know, you've inspired me and you're not alone. And if you ever come to the East Coast, I'm down here in Southwest Georgia. I got plenty of room. Come by. But I hope that you are doing better. I know that I've sent you a bundle of prayers several times, hoping that your situation would get better. Thumbs up to you, baby. Because some of the things, and while you're on the line here, one of the things I had a friend of mine come by with all the issues that I've had in my lifetime. I ended up with his family Bible. And 45 years I had this gentleman's Bible. He didn't even know the family Bible was. And when he called me to say hi, I said, hey, Chuck, I've got your family Bible. What? Yeah. It was an old Catholic Bible from Belgium, printed 1939, I believe. And that Bible is the one that helped save my life in a lot of ways, because I started reading it about the end times and so forth. And what I realized was King James really messed up the Bible. That folks really should go back to the older versions and read it. It ain't got all them these and thous and thys and boom. Anyway, but to that, in looking at what the Bible said and the changes that were made, went from adoration to worship. So when you read the old Catholic Bible, the old Douay version, Douay Reims, I think it is, it discusses how we are to adore Jesus. Now, rather not worship him. And in Revelations, which is what I was reading to try to see what was going on, it said, you know, that there are two different times that the angel comes back and talks to John, and John is on his hands and knees going, oh my God. And the angel says, no, stand up, my brother. You are like me. We are brothers. You stand up. You are not supposed to worship me. You are to adore the Lord. Now, I adore my grandmother, but I don't worship her. Now, both my grandmothers are dead, but to the point though, I adore my grandmother. I don't worship her. I adore the Lord. I don't worship him. Okay. And I think this is one of the things in our using of words. And I bring this up because Chuck went to the college in Carrollton, Georgia, and it was about linguistics, on how you speak, on how you use your word phrases, for example. And one of the things that I did way back in the 70s, and it was a thing called Try Another Way, where you did your best to refrain from using a negative word, like don't do that, or don't use those words. Keep the don't out of it. Rephrase your sentence so where you're actually giving them a positive. You're praising them without leaving the sentence to the subconscious mind in a negative at the end. That didn't really make sense. I'm struggling a little bit here. I kind of cross subjects from the Galactic Conspiratorium to, but anyway, when you came on, it made me think about, you know, how people use words. And so I went back to my training back in the 70s, because Charles would come and we would sit and smoke a joint and discuss words and how we did things. And because at the time I was a teacher for the mentally handicapped, retarded, blah, 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 blah. I was an instructor. So the whole idea was to remove any type of negative. So it was like, oh, don't do it that way. You would say, try another way. Try this way. Instead of don't do it that way, try doing it this way. You just eliminated the don't part. So with all of that, my mind went back 45 years going blah, 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 and watching the internet, watching you, watching, all the channels that I have liked in my, look on my channel thingy, Mr. Wayne Steiger, for example, and others. I think that's where I heard you, was when you were one evening with Wayne. So thank you, Wayne, for that. So it got me thinking, and how people were perceiving you, and how you would say something and people twist it around and blah blah blah. And I got to thinking, yeah, I have made comments thinking that they were positive comments to someone in another chat or something, just making a comment, to get attacked for my negativity. Or I got attacked for I must be on hopium. I'm hoping for a better world. So therefore now I'm addicted to hopium. Are you kidding? I ask you, my brothers and sisters, we must have hope. Forget about it. If I don't have hope for tomorrow, I quit. Now, do I hope that the aliens are going to come down? Blah, 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 blah. That's another story. But we all got to have hope, don't we? So now the people who at one point I looked at as sort of a guru, because they were giving me a perception of reality that I needed to think about. I needed to check it with mine. I needed to do a little bit of, inner reality looking this and that. Now these same people, it's almost like somebody flipped a light switch and they're all bitching at me because now I'm on hopium. I'm hoping for a better tomorrow. What? What? You're accusing me of being on hopium? And I thought these were the smart people. I thought these were people because they had given me insight to look at things differently and to accept things that I might not normally accept into my realm of reality. I allowed it because I thought it was important to weigh all subjects, no matter how crazy and outlandish these dadgum things were. But then for these same people in less than 6 months to turn coat and accuse me, who I listened to them to get hope because I had given up, to accuse me now of I'm on hooked on hopium. Now I'm going to read. Yes, we do need to demand a better world. They don't need any of them. They listen to the guy. Yes. And the folks that and here's one of the things that I'm sad. How's it going? Hey, Ma T. Okay, I'm really clumsy at this stuff, okay? But I would love to have conversation, okay? So I've had a lot of head bangs. I've had over 22 serious head bangs. I mean, I should not be, I shouldn't be able to, make a sentence. I have come a long way because a few years back, I was in a wheelchair and drooled and couldn't do anything for myself. And now I'm back out of my wheelchair. I am still in the healing process. Watching from New Zealand. God bless you, my dear. Oh, I'd love to come down there sometime. Whoa, maybe one of these days. But that, so these people, and watching you, Lavette, and other folks, and I love to go to the weird side of things because somebody's got an opinion that, oh, you're in Las Vegas. Cool beans. Weren't you, Lavette, weren't you in California or somewhere-ish a few months back? Just curious. You don't have to answer. I'm just, I hope you're in a better state of mind. Actually, I have some friends of mine who are like family who live in the Las Vegas area. John and his family, they're wonderful people, wonderful people. So, but, and anyway, and stay away from the pit out there, boy. I've been to Las Vegas. Yeah, that's, So, yeah, Stockton. There you go. I remembered Cali for sure. And I remember you were having issues, and Yeah, Northern California was great, but the further south I went when I was in California, the more I wanted to turn east. But anyway, that's another story. But with language, one of the things that I bring this up since you're on, Levette and Marie, I don't know you well enough, but God bless you, hon, that we need to be very careful now how we speak. Now, all these folks, oh, you libtard, you live left, right, back, up, down. We got to stop this name calling. I mean, we just have to, because of what's attached to the words. It's not the word itself, and it's the spell that's been put on. Don't do that. Don't blah 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 blah. Like your phrase, I don't drink or gamble. See, the I don't, using the word don't in that sentence makes it a negative. I mean, that's the cosmic thinking behind this. Not picking on you, Levette. I'm using that as an example. Now, I had to. It's a fun game. How not to use a negative in a sentence. How can I rephrase it but say the same thing? Like, for example, mother would say, thou shalt not. Exactly. But for example, a mother will say, have fun on your bike, but don't forget to wear your helmet. So in a way, she's saying, don't have fun, and you get lost on the helmet part, right? So in that sentence, you're almost saying, don't wear your helmet and don't have fun because of the word don't, and the fact that it isn't really necessary. You can say, have fun and remember to wear your helmet, rather than saying, don't forget. So what I'm saying is that, let me give a little bit of history. I was very much into theater. I'm a storyteller, puppeteer. I have 150 puppets. Most of them I created. Stories, I used to travel around and do marionette puppets and other types of puppetry. And then I got smacked and whacked and put in a wheelchair. And now, I've been in over 85 different stage productions. I don't mean, I'm talking about like Don't Drink the Water or, blah, 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 blah. 85 different shows. And each show had a minimum of 8 performances. So, okay, it's a numbers thing. I've also directed many shows. I actually wrote a play using Scrooge. We did it 2 years in a row in Thomasville, and I performed it 4 times in 3 years, and with great success, sold out shows, everything. But I rewrote Dickens, okay, for the play, for the stage. 30 different scene changes. Monstrous. My point of that is that I've been watching language and watching how the old timers wrote. Listen to the Civil War series where the boys are writing home, and the context of the words that they use in their letters, and these were supposed to be ignorant folk, but they spoke so well, and their grammar was good, and I mean, holy mackerel! And you listen to how folks want to write stuff these days. Now, the reason I say this is I think, and it's happened somewhere in the 80s and the 90s, and the closest I can attribute it to is when they brought out the word eubonics. Think about this. So when they brought out eubonics, it also brought into our reality a change of how our language has been used. And I seriously believe they swiped it and have basically put spells on our language because the language structure changed. We went from saying, remember to wear your helmet, to saying, don't forget to wear your helmet. And I've seen people nowadays, and every other sentence is, don't forget, don't. And when I stop and think about it, they have said don't 50 times in 5 minutes. In don't fall for the weirdness, don't fall for the plot, don't fall for the, wait a minute. You're already, by saying don't fall for it, you're implanting a negative. Really? Think about it. It is really deep. It's really heavy, and it's weird as wacko. But they're using magic on us, and we don't get it. We need to use that magic back. How do you use the magic back? You don't use theirs. You don't use their spell words. See, I just did it. You don't use. You tracked it. I got 30 seconds to pull that one back. Okay. What we need to do is try to use those words backwards with a positive rather than a negative. And in my word discussions, which is, I live by myself out in the country. I got a couple cats. I talk to the chickens. So I have plenty of time to come up with weird, conversations with Dave. But at the same time, I can actually come out of myself, being the actor that I am and was, to be able to say, okay, this is this role over here. Now I'm going to play this actor over here. Female, whatever the situation is, I need to be able to, as a director, be able to feel what this other character feels, okay, versus this one. So when I wanted to describe to my actors what relationship I want, when you say this to you say this, I want the two of you to be able to, this is what I want between you. Now, as a director, also as an actor first, I was able to put myself in each one of those positions so that when I directed my actors, I directed them as an actor. Say, look, this is how I feel, blah, blah, blah. And when you stand like this and blah, blah, blah. And then you over here on this side, this is how I want you. And now think about it, now go. Okay. I've had some very good compliments and very good performances, and lots of wonderful people have worked under my direction, including some kids who would, some of them would literally stand in front of a bullet for me if they, if it came to that. They loved me so much. But it was because I used positive influence. Now, being out here in the woods and whacked out, and a lot of times not able to even get on the internet, I've been watching how language has changed and how much so many people wish to put a positive spin or a positive verbiage on something. They end up using don't or not or stay away. Stay away from is not as bad as don't, because that's that fragment of a word, don't. Oop, out of here. Sorry. That negates a bunch of stuff. And when speaking about frequencies, when we speak something and it goes out, they don't just stop at the wall. The frequency continues that vibration. So the more that don't is used, or that negative-ism in a sentence, when actually you really mean a positive, it's weird. I know. But you got to take the leap. So one of the things that I am attempting to do, along with trying to let folks realize that, Orion does not set 40 degrees to the southwest. I'm sorry. The earth is wobbling big time. And if you ain't paying attention, that's your fault. And that doesn't mean that you should jump up and scream, because where are we going to go? The best thing you can do is remove yourself from a situation. For example, somebody was giving me hell yesterday about, I had made the simple comment, the earth is expanding. There's going to be lots of rocking, rolling, and we need to hang on and have fun because it's going to be a fun ride. Now, fun is like, wow, you're a wacko. You need mental health. And I was like, fun, that was I meant that sarcastically, But at the same time, I love whitewater rafting. And is that dangerous? You bet. But it's only dangerous if you're scared to death and you don't wear the proper equipment. So, like for you, Levette, you moved out of California. That doesn't mean you're free from all earthquakes, but you moved away from a bunch of them. You know, that is a positive thing that you do for your life. Not everybody can just up and go, but at least you can prepare yourself. You can prepare yourself mentally, whatever, canned goods, blah, blah, blah. Those are things you can do that is a positive, rather than either ignore it will happen at all and then are surprised when it does, or that you live every single day in fear. Oh my God, we're going to have an earthquake. Of course we're going to have an earthquake. We're on the earth. Period. But yeah, it's going to happen. Or tidal wave is going to happen. I hope not. Could they? Sure. I got a boat in case the water comes up. You know, I got life preservers. I mean, you know, I do the best I can with what I got. You know, so it's also a very frame of mind. I used to be scared to death of everything. Everything. Oh my God. Oh, because I had become so feeble, both in body and in mind, from all of the things that had happened to me these last few years. Now, with that said, it's time to move forward. We are in such a different paradigm. Oh my goodness gracious me. Talk about a new paradigm. Seeing the stars last week in the weird spot, I tried my best not to just bang my head against a tree. I know, but the tree didn't do anything to me. At the same point, though, I was like, you know, I'm not dead. The atmosphere is still here. I'm still on the ground. I have water. The house is still up. Okay, all these positive things. But what's really freaking me out is that the earth has wobbled big time. Why are we having all these earthquakes? Well, if the tire's out of balance, then the molten crud underneath our feet is going to act differently. We've got the top spin, we've got the bottom spin, we've got deep spin, we've got the internal spin. Of course, our tire's out of balance. Now, best thing we can do is live with it. Next thing is we need to quit calling each other names, because the worry creates the loosh for the nasties, right? The fear is where we need to stay away from. I was going to say I was going to use the don't word. We need to stay away from the loosh part, the fear, giving folks fear. We've all had enough of it. I'm 65 years old. I have had enough of this fear. Yeah. You guys too, I bet. So where do we go from here? We stop our fear. When somebody says something to us, how do we react back? Well, you pissed me off, and you gonna? Now I am a Russian web bot. I said 13 things to the other 13 Russians. I'm against Hillary Clinton, so I guess I'm a Russian spy bot. You know, we just have to take ourselves out of the craziness and laugh at this stupid stuff, because it is. Whoever is trying to spin these little twirlies at us, whether verbally or mentally or all the other if we remove ourselves from that timeline, because I can't remember who it was years ago. I don't remember who it was, but in their discussions, they said, you know, you do not have to accept a negative. If someone sends you a nasty letter and you have the choice to read it, you have the choice to open it, you have the choice to throw it in the garbage can, you have the choice to ignore it. Now, if you want to know what's inside, okay, read it. But even if you read it, you still have the ability to accept or reject what's in it. You can react to it, not react to it. You can go, oh, that's nice. garbage can. If it was something good, thank you very much. If it was very negative or nasty, you do not have to accept it. You just simply say, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Now, so many people now, because there is so much coming from other people. And I caught myself yesterday. I was like, is this person getting on to me? And I was like, wait a minute. I meant that, if a fun ride meant that, whitewater rafting, I would never jump off a cliff and do the paragliding thing. I would wished I had enough guts to do it. I'm not afraid of heights. I just, but water, rapids, stuff like that, I'm a water dragon. What can I say? Sure, whitewater rafting, wear your helmet, put on your life vest, and let's go. Could you get hurt? Yeah. I could get hurt walking across the street, but who cares, right? So as we change our attitudes, and I'm sorry, but I am full of hopium. Why they came up with something so negative for something as much as being hopeful for life. I hope that the sun comes up tomorrow. Does that mean I'm on hopium? And to me, these are people I respected. They pissed me off. I tell you, they pissed me off. And I had to forgive them and say, Lord, man, you got stuck with it too. With all this confusion, even those of you who have helped guide me to hopefully a better place where I am now. I'm not screaming at people and I'm trying to use positive words and so forth. Really look at the internal and try to bring the internal into the external so that my positive insides will show on the outside, and will be heard as positive rather than don't do. So, but these people have, I don't know, it's like they threw up the red pill and they're trying to take the blue one or something. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. They have just literally went off the wall in another direction. All this hopium, all these people talk about that, blah, 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 blah. Wait a minute. Whoa. So you're supposed to be bringing good news to the rest of us, but you're bitching at us because I have hope for tomorrow. I have hope for mankind. I have not given up. I've had 4 near-death experiences in my lifetime. I have not been drugged back here and put back on this place to give up. If anything is supposed to show David here, this guy in this meat sack right now, is your job ain't done, my friend. And no matter how hard you try to get out of it, you're not through. You got more to do. Now, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's having a conversation with you two ladies. Maybe. Because it only takes one spark of a thought to get to the next person for them to go, oh, dang, man. And then you pass it on to another person. That becomes malignant. That becomes the new paradigm. That is the hopium. We can change. That's the hope. Of course we can change. Levette, you changed. You changed your circumstances from California to Las Vegas. It has to be better. Otherwise, you would have stayed in Stockton. I mean, so you know what I mean. I'm not being picky or whatever. I'm trying to be light about this. But to those folks who say they can't, as soon as they say the word, they can't. You could say, well, I'm not sure if I could move. Or, well, maybe. Well, I never thought about moving, or maybe my location, or whatever it is. But to the point is that as soon as the word, I can't do that, you have just cursed yourself. If somebody had just taken, bad stuff and put a pentagram on your head and, and gave yourself a devil sign. I'm very aware of magic and black magic, by the way. I got into it in the 1970s and wished I hadn't, and may have drug a spirit into this realm. May have. Still working on that one. That's been 50 years ago almost. So, so where am I going with this? Well, For every person that we speak to, we should at least try. Other words, then you have nothing to bitch about. If you don't try, then quit complaining. I say quit complaining anyway, because your complaining ain't doing no good. It's a negative, feeding the loosh to the negative. There's way too much of that already. Now, one of the things that I really think is going on neat right now is this thing about QAnon. And the fact that people are actually having discussions without calling each other names. 6 months ago, I never would have thought. 3 months ago, scratch my head. Now, you look at all these Anons that are on. There's 5,000 to 6,000 people online at one time having a conversation about how to change to the good. Now, that's got to be good, right? That's got to be good. It has to be. Because all these people are, wait a minute, I'm coming out of the fog. Is this really the true Great Awakening? I believe it is. You know, and I've listened to Simon Parks and folks over the years, and just all kinds of folks, right? Because I want information from everywhere. So I can make up my own mind as what I'm seeing in my reality and what's coming, the spaceships I see and blue orb beings that are in my backyard. I mean, okay, but where does their reality tie into my reality, or at all? Or is my reality just mine, period? You know what I mean? So, but with that said, though, it coming to find out that other people, my reality is like a guy down that I watched on Secure Team 10 about his issues with, you know, probable abduction and his seeing UFOs. For years, I went to mental health because I kept having dreams of, you know, being in this room with people holding me down. Now, I was adopted. I was born in an orphanage and adopted finally at the age of 3.5 by my uncle, thank God. But during that time, when I was in a Catholic orphanage, them folks are weird. And that's not counting the pedophilia stuff I got into later on with the Catholic priest in the 60s. I don't know if I haven't been abducted or not. I know I got this thing on my arm that popped up. I don't know where it come from. It's a little white node. I don't know where it came from. It started itching today. I've not noticed it before, and I should have. I mean, it's right there on my arm. You know, where'd it come from? Other things, you know, over the years. And I'm not trying to say that is what happened. But it makes me scratch my head and go, well, how come all these other weird things have happened? And how come I'm having contact now with something that seems to be benevolent? They're guiding me in such ways as like, hey, watch this. You're going to learn something if you watch this. Hey, watch this. Well, I don't want to. Watch it anyway. You're going to learn something. All right. And I have. And I've learned that, boy, I needed to. I thought I was calm. No, there was a whole nother layer of calm I had to come through. I'm having trouble chatting. Oh, dang. And see, and I got a really good stream here, but that don't mean it's the same on your end. I just noticed that I need to plug in before the battery goes. I would love to hang out and chat sometime with folks. It isn't about, it's sort of like Wayne Steiger in a way. I do have an agenda, but my agenda is that it's the discussion. It's the conversation between people. And it's not you right or I'm right. Okay, so maybe we are both right. And that's the ticket. We might both be right about something, looking at it from just opposite sides of the planet. It's not that it's wrong. It's just from our perspective, this is what it looks like. I mean, if I travel 50 miles north, the sky is going to look different at night, period. That's it. All right. So I'm not worried about that. But having different perspectives, a gentleman that I've chatted with from up around Calgary in Canada, totally different perspective. You know, it's the same kind of issues, troubles, blah, blah, but his got a different perspective. Yeah, he's so much further north, all of the things that go with that. I think we should have more dialogue. I think the internet is not so much about calling folks names or who's right or who's wrong, but I'm giving you my opinion. Sure. But I would love to have conversation with you. The chatting is cool. I can't do the typey thing. I'm arthritis. So I'm hoping to do more of this. The cosmic rays that have been coming in have whacked me out these last 2 months. I mean, to the point of just knocking me out for several days. And it's not because of flu or anything like that. I'm talking knock me out. Now, the dreams that I've had after that or during them are some of the strangest galactic stuff. I'm telling you, I've been on another planet. I don't know how else to say it. The timelines that those guys was at CERN have been messing with, and they have. And I'm hoping that the galactics have got a handle on this. And for those of us who are aware, we need to simply say, CERN, you can't have me. CERN, not this time. CERN, you know. Our timelines have changed. And Cliff High and Randy Morgan's on Off Planet Radio, and Emily Moyer, I think is her name. Emily, yeah. What a wonderful point of view. And where some of this is going, I have been watching, and my internal spirit says, I think they're right. Or more so than any of the other, quote, stories or whatever's going on. And then it has to do with that we're picking up a lot of cosmic energy. We're in a new section of the galaxy. All of this is true. Our words, our actions are being shown in future things that are coming back. Also, time quake. Yes. And I realized something in listening to the off-planet media thing with Cliff High yesterday. I listened to it twice because I was like, I got to get this. Living where I do out in the country, my spatial relationship to time and space and the rest of the world is only around me. When I go up the road, it's a quarter of a mile to the highway. I live in the woods. And so until I get out on the highway, Dave's in his own little world. And I don't mean that like, oh, Lou skipped him, Lou. Nah, not quite. But in listening to how Cliff was explaining it, because I was looking for a way to explain how my time reality, even though I was watching things go by on the internet and I'm interacting in certain ways by making comments and watching and trying to do a video here and there about certain subjects, that I'm trying to interact with timeline now. However, in looking around, I think, well, wait a minute. What happened to the sky the other day? Were we simply on another timeline to where Orion was in that portion of the sky? Have we, like gone through this big hiccup with the new moon the other day to where now, because that was before the new moon, by the way, that now we've hiccuped and now Orion's back where it should be in the sky? Did we just skip timelines? What about maybe it's just my timeline? That's why I started doing this video tonight. I was like, I don't care. No planning, blah, blah, blah. Hit, let's go live. Because I need to discuss it because it's happening right now. Now, does this now mean my now here in South Georgia on my little property? Or is Orion doing the same thing in Arizona? Or is Orion doing the same thing, in New Jersey? I don't know. However, from what I have seen other people remark, it is happening. And it's only our observations that are going to prove that we're wobbling like a mofo, Why are the cold fronts doing all these weird things? Well, if the Earth ain't in the same spot, and we roll down and then we roll back up. What was that? We're like the Earth. The Earth is like a giant Weeble. Remember, Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down? Well, I used to have that as one of my sayings. I'm a Weeble. I wobble, but I don't fall down. So the Earth is sort of like that. It's Weeble wobbling like this, big time. We're heavier on the bottom. Our spin's been changed, and things are going on. But instead of bitching at each other, we need to just go, hey, have you got your helmet? Have you got your life preserver? You know, like you're saying, time quake ahead. Absolutely. And it's supposed to happen soon. I think it is happening. We're in it. If anything, it seems like it's gotten a little quieter. But how do I explain? The timeline seems to have gotten quieter. From an internal point of view, I don't feel as twisted as I did a week ago. And it feels more relaxed. And I think it was Drake Bailey in Quantum Healing Show with Dr. Muggsy. He said one time, it's like, look at timelines as like cords of rope. And, you know, all these individual cords is a timeline, but they're wrapped with other cords, and they all create a larger timeline. And what the idiots have done with CERN and their magic is that they have attempted and have succeeded in certain ways of changing our timeline. Thus, the Mangala effect, the Mandela effect. And so that in certain places it happened, like where when they turned on the quantum machine in Houston, for example, all of a sudden the Bible got changed. Where? In the Bible Belt. Well, then it kind of spread out. All of a sudden, certain things happen. When there is a correlation, unbelievably, to when they turned on these quantum D machines and to effects of, guess what? The Mandela effect. So, and because the quantum machines, the D waves, are tied in with CERN, with a huge magnet, for God's sakes, there is speculation that what these crazies are literally trying to do is not necessarily bring other beings into the earth, but to take the earth someplace else. As in, CERN is a porthole, and if they open it up, the earth will literally get sucked in and pop through to another time. Is that possible? I think it is. At least from their standpoint. Why would they have a 27-mile round ring under the earth? You know, I mean, come on. They've got something in their brain that they're trying to do. Bring in something. What? Why would you make a magnet that big? Why would you spend enough electricity to power the planet for years in one experiment? Why would they do that? And then turn around and complain that we don't have enough, there's not enough energy on the, oh, we're so poor. Oh, come on. This is all the game. Of course, we know that part. Now, so we changed the narrative kindly. Something that someone told me years ago, and it's also in the song Crosby, Stills and Nash. I see the light at the end of the day. And what is its purpose? No one can say. And they're speaking about David Crosby being on drugs and being strung out, and that his friends are trying to reach him. And the line goes in the song, "You're screaming too loud. No one can hear you." That's our problem. We've been screaming. And I know that there are times when I have tried to get my point across, and what did I end up doing? Screaming, basically. And when I look back on some of my older videos, I was like, wow, dude, you went in this with you thought you had a good frame of mind, and I'm going to have to take a couple of them down because I want that negativism not to be there anymore. I want to take it down. However, at the same point, it was like, yeah, but it reminds me of where I've come from. From, oh my God, these people are doing nasty stuff to us. Okay. Yeah. Tell the truth. That's right. And we tell other people, hey, these folks are doing nasty stuff to us. Well, we don't bow down to their level, by golly, because we're better than that. As human beings, that's one of the things that we have been, mesmerized with all this fancy language and gizmos and stuff, in that you think you're doing good. You do. But you're screaming so loud, no one can hear you. Just like the song, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, I think it was on the Deja Vu album. But, so we as a collective, in a way, have been trying to get our point across. And for those who need to listen, all they're hearing is screaming. And we've got, well, you must be a damn stupid libtard. As soon as you start spouting off these, oh, it's the Jews, it's the Nazis, it's weird people. Let's just put it simple. These are weird people who are doing weird things. We got to stop the name calling. They could be Masonic, Jew, blogger in the Catholic Church, and who cares? It's all very interesting to know where this stuff comes from, but it has absolutely nothing to do with how we change the future, except we don't do what they do. We do it differently. We see that first sentence, we don't do what they do. Then I change the sentence to, we do things differently. We do recognize the idiocy. We do recognize that changes need to be made. I didn't use a negative in there. I just did by using the word didn't. You understand the point. The more that we can speak fluently with our absolute positive words, and it doesn't mean that we can't disagree. It's just how we disagree. I went to Tampa Catholic High School in Tampa, Florida, graduated in 1970. And I loved debate class because you could, in fact, I had awards that when my house burned down, I had awards for public speaking and all kinds of stuff. In 1989, I think it was, I won the state competition in the VICA competition for extemporaneous speaking, and I won the gold medal and went to the national competition and placed 7th in the nation. Not bad. Now, but to the point, though, is that I'm not afraid to stand up and speak. And I have been taught over the years. And so this is where my background comes from. This is why I know that things can be changed. I know that the words we speak are magical. Everything we speak is magical. So if we reroute some of these words and stay away from the I don'ts, I can't, or, I didn't, that's a different one. Okay. Well, I didn't get your message. That's not a negative. You're just saying I didn't get it. But you could use that same phrase in a more negative term. Now, why is this important? Do we want out of this? Do we want out of this mess? I think, yeah, well, hell yeah. We wouldn't be sitting here having this discussion. Of course we want out of this. And each one of us, because you wouldn't be sitting here listening to me, are looking at how we can look at ourselves to do better and how we might be able to use this for the betterment of other people. That's why I'm here. I'm not better than you, but I have a point of view maybe could help you. That's my point. Am I right? Eh. Anytime you use negative words, it doesn't come out positive. Sorry. Just look at the information and think about the magic behind it. So, with that said, we can change this. Screw the people or now I'm on hopium. Are you serious? And the people that highly respected, and there are folks that I listen to, and then there are folks I respect. And Levette, you're one of the people that I respect because I've listened to you speak. I've listened to your videos. I've listened to your point of view, and I respect you very much. And I appreciate any time that you would spend with me, especially for me to rattle on with my little, in here. But we all want the same thing. We want a better world. That's pretty simple. And the small things we do have large vibrational consequences. Because if I say, I hate you, I take it back. That word goes out in the energies and they hit the quantum. So when we use all the good positives, like I said, we don't have to agree. That's not what I'm saying. We just use a positive way to state our opinion. That's all. That's all. I was listening to Be the Mustard Seed. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I will be going out later on this morning and planting some mustard. I've got some greens up down here in South Georgia. It's time for planting, and I've got potatoes in and things like that. But to your point, a mustard seed, absolutely. And I've noticed too that a mustard seed, it'll grow in the damnedest of conditions. I mean, seriously, I live in South Georgia where there is hard clay. And I've seen mustard seed come up in this hard clay, and I go. So even in the worst of circumstances, with a little bit of water in hard clay, a mustard seed will grow. Now, will it nourish and flourish and everything? I've seen them do pretty dang good for the circumstances. Now, the biggest thing everything needs is water. And of course, what are we mostly? Water. What is this next dimension we're going into? It's going to send our vibrations. It's going to change all this water and this. I can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to be like skinny dipping. Why did I say that? Skinny dipping in that we don't have to wear our meat suit. I mean, we could just swim on in our spirit body, kind of. Ooh, I can't eat. I can imagine, but I can't. I've been trying to put that in a 3D term, but it don't work. But the thing is that it keeps me excited because I'm on hopium. Hopium. I can't believe it. I still, instead of being pissed off about it, you see, I'm going to turn that frown into a laugh, and I'm going to laugh about this hopium business because I was like, of all the absurd things being brought to this planet. Oh my God, David, no, you have hopium. Because I want tomorrow to be a better day. Oh my God, because I have hope. Now, I know that some of these folks are talking about this hopium business as like the aliens coming down and help us and all, but they've already come down and helped me. They've showed me that, hey, hopium and thallium. What's thallium? Yes. I missed the thallium. You used a word I'm not familiar with. I might have to look it up in the dictionary. Oh my God. See, and that's one of the things also in language and things. In the use of language, when I wrote the script for Scrooge for the stage, trying to hold on to the thought process of Charles Dickens, and and his words and how he used them, and almost like, you got to be able to turn that into a I had to turn prose into conversation between two people or three people. So where he would describe something about Scrooge, I had to turn that into a conversation, or maybe to speak his thoughts out loud. And you can't speak the written word the same way. So I had to cheat, but I never replaced one of Charles Dickens' original words with a current word, because I felt that was blasphemy. If I did anything, Charles would come back from the grave and murder me for that one, So, but I did use his own words in other areas of his prose to fit where it was easier to speak about. Oh, I did not know that, Levette. The lamb thallium, or Fomalhaut, the main ruling star of Aquarius, an air sign or airheads. And I was looking at the constellations about 2 weeks ago. We had a really clear night, and oh man, was they out. And I was looking at the constellation Aquarius and some of the stars, and I was like, you could almost feel like you could touch them. And it's not like reaching out and grabbing them and touching them that they're so close. It was more etherical. It was weird because some of this newness coming in. I've been watching the stars for 60 years, and so having the feeling of closeness, and you could almost touch them, but then there was the closeness of almost touching them etherically, spiritually, or energetically, or something. And it was like, whoa. And it was almost like if I pointed towards a star, it was almost like I could feel almost like a zap. Never happened before. And this was just, like 2 weeks ago. And I'm trying to describe something that happened that has never happened before. And but there you go. There you have it. But I think that's part of what we're going through right now. There are so many changes on so many levels. Dancing with the Stars, absolutely. And now that we're in the dog cycle new year, now it's not good for us water dragons necessarily, but towards the end of the year, it'll get better. That's okay. I'd much rather be out of, I can make friends with a dog. I don't think I could make friends with a goat, although I had a goat. Anyway, never mind. Living in the country, there's a lot of animals and things, but anyway. The different levels of spirituality. Now I'm reaching for words here because I've been on a shamanic journey since I graduated high school in 1970. My Dominican nun talked me out of becoming a priest because of all the pedophiles. And a Dominican nun in the Catholic Church told me to study Buddha. Yep, because she said in 1970 that Jesus studied Buddhism. Guess what's coming out now as a reality? Oh, well, all them years that Jesus was gone, he was studying with Buddha. Sister Helene told me that in 1970, Strange, strange, strange. And the secrets that the Vatican would come out in years to come, as she spoke in 1970. And I don't know how old Sister Helene was, but she was at least in her 40s then. She has since passed, but a wonderful lady. And she taught me things about spirituality and key things to look for. Well, so in my shamanic journey, I've studied Buddha and this and that, and I've got all 3 books of the Bhagavad Gita, for lots of stuff, Zen, you name it. And I found out then later on in my studies that I actually have a pretty good percentage of Cherokee in me, which explains why me in nature and my correlation with nature that no white man could ever explain, and only a Native American would understand and could explain. So with that, my journey went from, I don't know, sort of a Buddhist tradition to more of a Native American. And because I live here down here in the South, there are, there's about 30 miles south of me, there's the Tama Indian Reservation. I go down and visit with the folks and so forth. So I feel kind of at home with that. Also, there is a spiritualism in Native American traditions that they are just literally born with. I mean, they wake up in the teepee and they are there. And that's something that white people just don't ever get. Now, no, not every Native American is born in a teepee. That's not quite what I meant. But they are born into that immediate thinking, where white people are like, oh, what did we? No. There's a totally different thinking. And there was a bad joke years ago about, one of the children was asking the Indian chief, and, elder, how did we get our names? And he looked at me and he said, why do you ask two dogs humping? So it's like, okay, what is the first thing you see when you come out of the teepee when, I saw two dogs humping and that's your name. How about that? And so, ha, ha, ha. I have my name and I got my Indian name because I had diarrhea. And I was running from the teepee to the porta-john and back. And unbeknownst to my situation was that half of the tribe was watching me do this in the middle of the night. And they were literally waking each other up going, you got to watch this guy. And because I'd get to the teepee and open up the flap and then turn around and run back. And I refused to run across the sacred circle because it had been blessed. So I was detouring around it, but at the same time, trying to keep my rear end from messing up my underwear badly or worse. So when I woke up the next morning, they came up with a name for me. I'm the man who runs at both ends, or for short, running man. Now, at first, for a brief second, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? And then the whole tribe started laughing at me, laughing with me. If you could have seen yourself running back and forth across there, all we could say was the man who runs from both ends. And we got to give him his name, man who runs from both ends, the running man. And they all came up and shook hands with me, like, I'm sorry you feel bad. I've got a home remedy for you. But to the point, their naming and how they look at things and their level of spiritualness, like some Christian folks of mine were like, well, them Native Americans, they're all a bunch of savages. Oh, if that's true, then how come they say a Christian prayer at every powwow? What? Oh, yeah, they give a Christian prayer at every powwow. Those savages, yeah, they actually say, thank you, Jesus Christ, and to God. But they also make their prayer, guess who? To Great Spirit, who is above and beyond Jesus and the other God that the Christians made up. But they don't get it. White people don't get that. Native Americans do. And there is a hierarchy of the spiritualness. So in my learning of the spiritual nature of things, the different levels that we have. And one of mine was somebody said, until you can actually forgive 100%, the most heinous thing that someone has done to you, until you, David, can from your heart, soul, forgive someone, you ain't going. You ain't fitting through that eye to needle business. You ain't going. Well, why do I have to forgive somebody that pedophiled me and ruined my life? Well, did they ruin your life or did you? I allowed them to ruin my life. But then who's guilty? Me or them? What? You mean I'm guilty? How did I end up being guilty when a priest pedophiled me? How did you make me guilty in this? Well, you're guilty, Dave, because you're still at it after 60 years or 50 years. Oh. You're dragging it forward. Oh. It's like down here in the South, old-time cotton pickers. Long row to hoe. Yeah, okay. Well, down here in the South, when slaves picked cotton, and slaves weren't necessarily black. They were white people, too, that worked as sharecroppers who were worse than slaves. And they'd start at one end of the field with an empty sack. And they could bust butt going through that field fair to middling. By about 2/3 of the way through, that sack started getting heavy. All right. And they couldn't go and empty the sack and then go back. They had to drag that sack. And for the further they went, the more cotton they picked, the heavier that sack got till they could get to the end of the row. Now, an old timer from around here one time told me, he said, Mr. Dave, because that's what folks called me as a puppeteer and storyteller. Mr. Dave. So, Mr. Dave, you need to empty your sack out. What? Your sack. You need to empty your sack out. What you talking about? Then he tells me about the cotton picking. And, I helped pick cotton up the road 30 years ago, when they still, anyway. So, and it's hard. So he says, in life, he said, you're dragging your cotton to the next row. He said, when you get to the end of that row, you're supposed to dump it out. And I was like, well, now, and he looked at me and he goes, don't be silly. I'm talking about dumping out your burdens. You should not carry them forward down the next row. And life is one row after another. And if you take what you started in row number 1 and you on row number 4, your sack's so heavy you can't pull it. You ain't going to go forward because you're dragging so much behind you. Now, oh my God. Now, folks who, you can kind of picture, I guess, in your head, anything that you might be picking, but in the old days of the cotton and when folks was dragging them big old sacks, and they were big old heavy sacks too, in that of all the things I studied with Buddha and this and that and the other thing, dumping my sack at the end of the road made more sense than anything else I could think of. And I realized that I was not emptying my sack, that I was bound and determined because of who I was. David Noel, I am strong. I could carry this on. I'm going to be an idiot and try to drag a half full sack of cotton down another row. I'm bound and determined. I'm not going to deal with my burdens. I'm going to drag them with me. Man, about 2 years ago, I had that. It was a re-revelation. And what it was is that I had made a lot of progress, and then I got hurt. And then I got put in a wheelchair. And I mean, I couldn't even go to the bathroom by myself. Nothing. I could do nothing on my own. So I went from a walking, talking director, actor, musician, puppeteer, storyteller that traveled all around the East Coast, up into Tennessee and the Carolinas, all around Georgia, northern Florida, Alabama. I can't even go to the store that's 6 miles away. So, Creator Spirit threw me hard to the ground. Said, how much of that do you want to carry down the next row, Dave? Do you want to carry this burden with you some more? And maybe if you just sat down and said, you know, I can't get in touch with the person to say this in front of their face, but I can visualize them, and I can meditate, and I can say a prayer, and I can ask myself on a spiritual level that I've never been able to feel before. Can you forgive Father Forchetti for bugger you in the butt? That's a good question. So I had to meditate a lot on that one because it was something I was dragging forward. And finally I said, but after 40 years of bitching about this, what good is it doing me bitching about it? It's over. It is over. Now, so the spirituality, I said, well, I forgive him. I can talk about it now, and I'm not hiding it. Nah, I didn't forgive him. Nope. And I didn't forgive myself, which was even worse. Because what I found out in the forgiveness process was I wasn't forgiving him. I ended up forgiving myself because I felt guilty for not standing up at the time and saying no. But because I was so brainwashed at that time with Catholics and priests, and I mean, I was in it, boy, I could not, if I said something to a priest, it was saying it to God. I don't think that now, but at the time, I was brainwashed. I was, 17 years old, 16. Now I look at it and go, I did forgive Father Forgetting, but who I didn't forgive was myself. Because I was carrying the guilt I was masking my own guilt feeling by blaming him. And he wasn't at fault, but that's not the point. The point is, I did not forgive myself. And over the years, I actually made that sack heavier. Because I was denying forgiving myself. I was denying, that I had any part in this. Now, the part that I had was that I didn't forgive myself. Look, I could have walked out. There are a lot of things I could have done. Did he force me mentally? Yes. Physically? No. Now, that's what I was mad about. I wasn't mad about him so much as I was pissed off at myself. Why did you not get up and leave that room? Why? I don't know. Scared? Well, what did he hold over me? He was holding over me the Catholic Church. He was holding over me just exactly that, guilt. So, in forgiving him, I found out that I actually had to forgive myself. How hard is that to do? Do we even know that we are involved in the forgiveness process of ourselves? So with that, it's like, So what I meant earlier about reaching a different spiritual level, I thought I was doing pretty good because I had thought that I'd forgiven him. Okay. But in reality, deep, way deep, so far down deep that I didn't even want to look. Even though I had my glasses on, I had my fins and flippers and was ready to go as deep as necessary to fix whatever the problem was. But the problem wasn't him, it was me. The problem is sometimes within ourselves. And until you look into that mirror and go, wait a minute, I'm not saying that we are to blame, but at the same time, we will unconsciously blame ourselves for something that in retrospect, later on in life, why did I do that? Don't know. But after 45 years of dragging this bag down the wrong, down another damn lane, shouldn't you loosen your burden? Should you empty your sack of burdens at the end of every row? Whatever row that is. If it's the end of the day, drop your burden. If it's the end of the week, drop your burden. Whatever it is. And I don't necessarily mean you got to go to church, you got to do all the, no, just say, you know what, whatever's gone on in this last week, I'm I'm not going to feel guilty about this. I'm going to feel positive about this because I learned a lesson from it. I'm going to feel more positive. I'm going to remember, try not to do that in the future, whatever the situation might be. That's how we change. As we change our reality, regardless of CERN and all these other things, when we change the space around us, we affect the adjacent spaces next to us. Because we're all in this quantum together. So by making my space better for me to live in, I'm making it better for the next person who, as I wish to project my positive energy out to other people and say, hey, you've looked at yourself and you say you have, and I'm not saying that you haven't, but there might be another level to this looking inside yourself, which kind of brings me back to the hopium deal. They're so full of hopium. Now people are full of hopium. What put that dark spot on your heart? Because when I looked at you, I saw good. Now when I look at you and listen to you, I see black. What happened to you? I don't mean you personally, but I mean to these gurus I've looked up to over the many years of trying to find my own space. So I not that they will listen to me, but I challenge them to, hey, stop with this hopium crap. Stop with the name calling stuff. Because if you're all that you say you are, which in my opinion, I've lost the great respect I had for you because of your asinine, see, and I'm doing it because of your asinine use of words and hopium. You went the opposite direction. What happened? Timelines had to have been affected because what happened from someone who's hopeful for tomorrow to wake up the next morning and go, no more. Okay. Look inside. There's another layer. And when I found that next layer, something happened to me that's still happening. And I'm trying to convey it to you because it's like, for all the anger that I might have, it's not really anger. It isn't. I can tell from in here. I can tell. Before I used to bring anger, when I talked about the guy and blah, 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 I was angry at myself. I could feel the anger. I don't feel angry anymore. I really don't. It's like, whoa. When I dropped that mess and I realized that actually I was at the key to it in that I was allowing certain words to trigger me in certain ways. I was allowing certain situations. And, but I forgave them. No, you didn't. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. Argue with yourself all you want to, Dave, but you didn't forgive them and you didn't forgive yourself. Oh. My paradigm has changed. And I'm going to do my best to convey it to other people. There aren't anyone who's going to, that says, oh, Mr. Dave, you were a mean, nasty person. I'm not bragging, but I made it a point to all the people that I directed or when I was out in public doing puppets or storytelling. I did my dead level best to respect everyone I met, regardless of how they treated me. But in all of the rigmarole and blah, 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 the people now that have had contact with me say, whoa, crap, what'd I do? That, Mr. Dave, I never lost respect for you because you always respected everyone that you worked with, regardless of how hard they were to work with. When you, quote, lost your temper, you calmed down immediately. Because there were times I had to make a point, what are you stupid? And I'd go, okay, now let's sit down and discuss your character here, okay? And people go, what? But I got their attention. And then I blew up and then brought them down and we sat down and had a conversation. And I never let the anger go any further or whatever it was, past that point. And in some of the things that Saint Germain has passed on and other saintly type folks is that it's okay to get mad for the moment. But if you carry that anger any further as anger, try another way. So the anger can stimulate you to do a positive thing, but it doesn't mean you have to be angry to fix it. Ah, damn it, I'm mad because I got a flat tire. Well, I had to go out and change it. I put on another tire and everything's fine. I can go to town and okay. But, you don't stay mad about it. I used to. Ah, damn it, I had a flat tire today. Set me back. I was mad all day long and I would carry it on into the next day about a tire that went flat. Life is like that. People are carrying every day into the next. When at some point they need to go, okay, done. It's not that you forget it. It's not that you ignore it. See, I used the not words twice in a row there. It is the fact that you recognize it for what it is. It was anger at the moment. Okay. You decided not to continue it, but to stop it. So you recognized it, you stopped it. Third thing, you did a positive. You use those two things to say, okay, my third thing is that now my anger, my recognition, now I'm going to use a positive to have a better outcome than what the anger being transmitted and being carried forth for the next hour, next day, next week, next month, and in my opinion, for 40 years. So my anger at Father Facchetti was anger at me for not being able to forgive myself, for not leaving, for not whatever, for not changing, whatever it was. And then I got mad at myself for being mad at myself. I mean, but then it was like I had to give it all up. And it turned into one great big laughing spree. How many people, I'm not saying that, how many people can go inside and do that? I know I still got stuff I'm working on. And, hey, I'm human. But the fact is that I look at it now in a totally different perspective. And that's what's changed. How I perceive the next guy. So if somebody hollers at me now, I go, well, what's he hollering at? Well, he must have had a bad day because obviously he misunderstood what I was saying. So rather than trying to cram it down his throat and scream at him like, hey, you got it wrong, I go, hey, this is what I meant. And if you take offense to that, have a nice day. I apologize. Bye. And, so what could be a negative put forth into the quantum on this computer in a chat somewhere that someone had a negative response to what I thought was a positive, I hopefully changed it to at least neutral. You don't have to agree with me. I'm sorry you misunderstood me. Have a wonderful day. Whoa. Now, I didn't accept it to carry it on in my day. I dropped it. So I emptied it out of my bag. Now, the person that I replied to, I can't help that. My intentions were that, oh, you misunderstood me. This is what I meant. And have a great day. Now, they can accept or reject the great day or not. They can accept or reject, you misunderstood me. However, I have not gotten back another message if I send a neutral or something out to the ether to calm the waters from something that someone might have misunderstood me to say. And mistook it and took it as a negative and tried to promote it as a negative. Like, you were so negative. Well, hang on. This is what I meant. I meant whitewater rafting. Okay. That's what I meant by fun. If you don't like water rafting, then you're not going to have the same fun as me. That's all. Sorry. I should have used another explanation. Please forgive me. Now, somebody said, well, why are you doing all this? Forgive me, blah, blah, blah. Are you backing up? No, I'm not backing up. I'm saying that for some reason in this weird world, your wires got crossed. Now, I'm not saying that to you because I'm saying you got your wires crossed. Because I used to say that. You're freaking crazy. Your wires are crossed. You don't understand me. And I'm screaming too loud and you're not going to hear me. So then I understood that, it's easier and will deflate a situation every time. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Because people don't expect that. Wait, you were wrong? Yeah, I was wrong. I used the wrong words. Well, forget what I meant, because I obviously can't convey what I mean. So no point to you trying to understand me. I'm sorry. I just made a mistake. It's so much easier just to back out of it than to try to get your point across. And possibly in your apology, the person will go, well, wait a minute. Is that what you meant? Oh, crap. And you'll fix the solution. And by your apology, you just, poof, there is no argument. Who can be mad if you say, I'm sorry? But I said I was wrong. Whether I was or not is immaterial. Am I the bigger man or person or whatever to say, hey, I know how to control the situation. And if I accept that I'm wrong, whether I am or not, and that calms the situation down, I might be able to actually get my point across without screaming at you. What a conversation you can have when the other person thinks you're wrong. You're right. You were wrong about that. Okay. But if you don't feed off of what they give you, if you reject what they're trying to feed you and go, oh, well, yeah, okay. You dodge it sort of like in the Matrix, oh, Neo's going, there goes a bullet, there goes a bullet. People are throwing words at you. People are throwing phrases and feelings and whatever. But at the same time, you go, yeah, okay, that's fine. Yep, took a pot shot at me. But I refuse to accept it. It's your opinion, fine. And I don't have to react negatively. I just simply say, okay, and leave it at that. And mentally, in here, down there, whatever, just drop it. I have made more friends that way because you diffuse the situation. And what is greater to me in the eyes of the Creator is rather than, is it better to diffuse a situation and admit a fault that isn't there? And I don't mean like to the Nazis or blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about just a one-on-one kind of, hey. Is it better to, to even feign? Now, I truly say I'm sorry, because somewhere along the line, what I meant to get across to you didn't get there. And I am sorry that it didn't get there the way I intended. That is a true statement. And from my heart. So the other person can see that. So I'm not lying to them. But I just refuse to make an issue out of it. Let's leave the issue alone. Do you want to believe that the earth is wobbling like an out of whack, out of balance tire? You can argue with me, but when I go outside, which I'm fixing to go out and do, when I go outside and look up and find out where Orion is, am I going to shit a gold brick and find out that it's over in Tallahassee where it shouldn't be? Or is it going to be relatively up overhead where it's supposed to be? I won't find out until I go look. If I don't look, I'll only wonder. And all I can do is speculate on that. So I could say, well, last Monday it was like this. But I'm going to go outside in a few minutes and I'm going to look for myself. And then I'll be able to make the determination how bad the wobble is. Not that it makes any difference, but it's like, whoa, we're really wobbling here. Okay. Now, to all of this, and that I'm not, I guess you're still there. It says somebody's there. I love you, my dear. We've never met in a 3D in this plane that I'm aware of. But I extend my heart warm, all the above to you and what's coming up, and to the poor man. I sit here and I'm just curious, but I'm like, what's it going to feel like when it hits us? You know what I'm saying? Whoa! Some people are just going to be sitting there going, and I guess it's my job, because I've already hit that stage, to go, oh, whoa, dude, okay, everybody, and maybe you as well, Yvette, or our quote destinations are to help these folks that after they get flattened out with this energy wave, they're really going to be looking for, what do I do with this information? Something's changed here. Oh man, whoa. And I say, they're going to need our guidance. And in a way, leadership, although that's really not what I mean. Leadership in that, taking a leader role in that, hey, I've done the work on myself. And I'm saying that, do your own work. I'll help. We'll help. We'll all help. We'll help each other to do our own work so that we can do this together. The collective. This thing with QAnon right now is so amazing. There are thousands of people around the world who are interacting on this. Whew. The change is here. The change is here. And I can't wait for the time crunch. And Yvette, my dear, let's see what birds in bothering you. Wait, what? Bird in bothering. Two choices. Sprout feathers and become the bird, or lay an egg. Yep. Well, my chickens lay eggs and they've got feathers, but they can't fly really too well. Only for short distances. And I think one of the things that's going to be very interesting to some people are the fact that we really can fly with our spirit, inside, outside, fly. And the release from, when you let go of that heavy sack of cotton at the end of that row, I'm telling you. Now, I'm not saying that I have reached any kind of nirvana, but I have reached a certain element of, oh my God, I did not realize that I was not emptying my sack. Okay. But what that has done for me and to me in the inside outside thing, it's good for me. And I hope it can be good for somebody else. So dump your sacks out. Yvette, I love you, my dear. Maybe one time, if you're ever at a spot, we can do a shirt up live chat, kind of just so we can have an interaction. Hey, I'm going outside because I can't wait to find out where Orion's at. I might be on later on because at this particular moment, I am wound up and I've been asleep for 3 months and I'm ready to do something. So God bless you. And it says, am I ready to end the stream? Yes, because I got to go to the bathroom. All righty. Love you. See you later. This is Hawkeye Two Feathers, my Indian name, the man who runs at both ends, and David Null saying, have a wonderful evening. Watch the skies, and the time change is coming. May Creator and the source be with you all.